Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Chasing the Whimsy. I am your host, Ben. We got a special one for you guys today. This should be coming out Wednesday, so it's going to be one of those special Wednesday episodes. A little while ago, I had mentioned on the live streams and the podcast that SNA Communications had reached out to me and told me that a gentleman was interested on being on our show. And we were finally able to confirm some dates, and we have this guest with us today. Before we get him on, let's see. Preparing for the show today, I fell down a rabbit hole looking at this gentleman's career. I'm trying to find something to talk about. I found that I could pick one or two of his accomplishments and we would have a great episode, but it would do him no justice. Researching him, growing up, he loved sports, mainly football, so much that he was able to obtain a scholarship to the Vanderbilt University, where he would graduate third in his class, earning an academic All-American honors. From there, he would go to law school, Harvard Law. After that, he would spend 30 years as a successful LA County District Attorney. He would live an entire life and career that anyone could be happy with and be proud of. But this man wasn't done. Building on emotional connections with jurors for 30 years, he realized he wanted to find a larger audience, more than the 12 jurors. So while still a district attorney, he would use his downtime and found about 25 different roles in the theater. Since then, he's retired from law, but he's rededicated himself to exploring the different roles in acting. Working small roles on like Mad Men, Scrubs, The Residents, Heartbeat, and Young and the Restless. He is now starting a new series on the Great American Peer Flicks channel, Shadrach. Our guest today shows that it's never too late to find a new passion and to reinvent yourself. Today, I'm happy to have Greg Allan Martin with us. How are you doing, Greg?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that introduction. I don't think I can live up to that, but I do appreciate it. It is
interesting. We talked a little bit before we recorded. I've only been doing this for about a year, and we've interviewed a lot of my family, but we also liked reaching out to anybody, celebrity. Obviously, I got a 14-year-old son, so he's like, celebrity, let's do it. So we've had the pleasures of speaking to a couple of reality TV stars, and Robert Kurtzman, who was the makeup artist for some horror movies. So I like finding new and interesting people. And when I fell down your rabbit hole, your career is amazing. I absolutely love some of the work that you've done as an actor. Can't find a lot of stuff as far as like what you were doing as a lawyer, but your shift into acting is fascinating to me right now. I'm absolutely loving it.
Thank you. It's been quite a journey, and the truth is, it wasn't exactly a shift from one to the other. I grew up, as you mentioned, playing a lot of sports. My dad was a great athlete himself, and I have two brothers who were all very competitive, played football, basketball, baseball, golf, tennis, anything we could do. But at the same time, my dad always made sure we understood that academics came first. So there's that old phrase, that moniker, student athlete, and he always made sure we knew student came first. That's why I picked Vanderbilt as a place to go and study and play football, because of what a phenomenal academic institution that was. But along the way, even as a kid, I would do church plays and junior high school plays. When I got into college, I didn't have enough time to do theater because football and studies was just all consuming. But even in law school, we had our own little amateur theater company that put on a couple of plays a year. So I've always had that love. And then when I got into the DA's office and I'd finally gotten settled enough. Not that I had a lot of free time, but I just missed being in theater. So there's a lot of crossover between being a trial attorney and being an actor. And I've often said I think a lot of attorneys are frustrated actors. So that's why I had to go and get back involved in theater. And as you mentioned, I did over 25 plays with the theater company that I was involved with in Hollywood. So I managed to bridge both worlds for quite some time. And it wasn't until I actually retired a couple of years ago that I was able to turn that avocation into hopefully a little bit more of a vocation with the acting.
Let's go a little bit into like the early years. You mentioned your brothers, your dad, you're all very competitive. Did your brothers also scholarship into elite schools?
Yeah, my older brother, he paved the way for me. He played football at Vanderbilt a couple of years before I did. And my younger brother went to Yale and was involved in fencing and track and field and modern pentathlon. So, yeah, we all were blessed with the ability to attend great schools and great educations. And when we all continued our athletic pursuits, and I got to brag about my older brother. My older brother is still to this day and has been for many years, because he was a football player and a swimmer in college, which is a very unusual combination. But still to this day, he swims masters swim meets. He is the fastest swimmer his age in the world. He sets world records at his age. It's pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So with all of you, a very athletic, competitive family. Tell me a little bit about the support group. Like, how did you guys all support each other? I got my 14-year-old son who's big into wrestling, second place state champions last year, and he's super focused and wants to do well in it. What kind of support is going to help him achieve the heights you guys have?
You know, I just heard this on a sermon yesterday that the way you spell love to kids is T-I-M-E, just time. And that was what, like all kids, you don't appreciate it growing up, but there were 3 boys. We were all involved in so many sports, and my dad was there at every game, every meet, practices when he could be. And of course, my mom was there, having this, cooking meals in shifts to fit in with all of our activities. So that was more important than anything else, was just knowing that my dad was always there. He was always there. He was always encouraging. He was never the kind of dad that you hear a lot about, especially these days with the pressure on kids, just overbearing. You got to do this. You got to make this. And, sometimes that pays off. Tiger Woods, the 100,000 hours he spent as a kid playing golf paid off big time for him. But sometimes that can drive kids away from sports. There's a lot of burnout in youth sports. And so that's what I did. I actually made a very deliberate decision when I graduated from law school. I could have gone to work with a bunch of different law firms that paid a ton of money, but they would have kind of owned me, and they would have been 80 and 100-hour weeks. And I didn't want to do that. So I deliberately went into the DA's office, A, because it was more interesting to me, but B, because I knew that I would have a lifestyle where I'd be able to do what my dad did for me. Be there at every practice, coach them in sports, always be there for them, give them time.
Do you have a family? Do you have kids of your own?
I do. I have 2 boys, 28 and 21. And so one of them is out of college, obviously, and the other one is just starting his senior year at TCU, Texas Christian in Fort Worth.
Are they athletic also, or what kind of extracurriculars do they do?
They are. And if we had about 12 more episodes, I could spend all day talking about my kids' athletic accomplishments. But Yeah, my older son was a phenomenal high school quarterback and could have played at any Division III school in the country, but he wanted to go to UCLA because he was such a great school, and because he hadn't played his junior year, which is a whole other story. He didn't get a lot of scholarship offers at D1 schools, but he got what's called a preferred walk-on. He went and played for a year and then decided he just wanted to be a student. And my younger son at TCU is just doing a lot of intramural sports at TCU.
Very cool. The pressures of being an athlete, you had the nice support group with your dad, keeping your focus on the academics before sports. Was there ever a time in the early years where your grades started to slip, where academically you maybe were falling a little bit short? Because obviously the sports is more fun than the academics.
Yeah, it is. But I guess it was just instilled in us. And again, not that you do this or else, it was just more like, if your grades don't stay up there, you're going to have to drop some of the other stuff. And so we were just all very fortunate that it came somewhat easy to us. So the truth is, my grades never did really dip in high school or college.
Did you use so you kind of used the good grades as a motivator to continue to be successful in the sports?
Right.
And kind of just like the perspective a little bit.
Right, exactly. And both of them require, enormous commitment and time management. And that's why I think it's great for kids to be in sports, because you do have to learn all those things. So to me, they feed off of and can encourage each other. A lot of kids don't see it that way. A lot of parents don't see it that way. They focus way too much on athletics and this slim hope of their kids getting a college scholarship somewhere, and the academics get left behind. And then, as we all know, a life in sports. I mean, I wanted to play pro sports, but I wasn't good enough to. And an incredibly small percentage of kids get to play pro sports. And then even if you do, you got a lifespan in pro sports that's just a handful of years, and you got the rest of your life to figure out what to do with. So I'm very glad I have that background, and the good grades combined with the sports, I think, is what got me into law school.
Mm-hmm. Why law school? Why did you have an idea, after graduating, that you wanted to go to Harvard? Like, did you know you wanted to be a lawyer?
I did. And it's interesting because it goes back actually to what you were asking about my brothers and being competitive with them. My older brother, 2 years ahead of me, very smart, very accomplished, very good athlete. And in a lot of cases, when a younger brother grows up under that sort of shadow of an older brother, you just go a different way or go off the deep end because you can't take that pressure. I didn't do that. I love that. And I love, beating his times or whatever he did in sports. And we actually got to play together in football in college. But all of which to say is he went to business school, and it was a combination of two things. One, well, secondarily, it was because he went to business school. I thought, it's time for me to go a different route. I followed him to Vanderbilt. I played football at Vanderbilt. I thought, I want to do something different. I want to go to a different graduate school. I always knew I wanted to go to graduate school, but I did. I wanted to answer your question. I wanted to be a lawyer. To me, law dealt more with, and it's stereotypical, I guess, and maybe ill-informed at the time, but I thought it dealt more with issues and values and ethics and morality and right and wrong and that sort of thing. Then I had this idea that business was just all about money. So that sort of spoke to me, and that goes along with why I got into criminal law as well. So yeah, it was a deliberate decision to do law rather than business.
Okay. Who are some of the standouts that got? You mentioned mom and dad a lot. Did you tell your parents constantly that they were your support and that they're the like lots of thank yous, or did you kind of just do your thing and your actions were more of the nod to the parents.
Yeah, I think like a lot of kids, you wake up at your mid 30s or something, and you go, and once you have your own kids, you go, oh my God. You look back and go, the time they spent sitting for hours at swim meets, the time they spent helping with homework, and you don't even think your own parents have their own lives when you're growing up. So my thank yous, I can remember specifically going back to mom and dad going, oh my God, thinking back what you guys did and what you sacrificed for us. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I don't think I spent a lot of time telling them that when I was growing up. And my kids haven't done it for me either. I'm still waiting.
Because Liam he's dominating the sport right now, and I want to be. We're all supportive of him, and like my mom and my grandma are like, "Yeah, just let him do his thing," and I'm like, "We're not getting the recognition that we want." And then I look back and I'm like, "I've never given my mom the recognition that she deserved raising the 3 kids alone."
Yeah.
So like it is interesting because I was 40 when I had this revelation of like, there's not enough thank yous back, So just want to make sure it's par for the course. That
Oh no, yeah, it can often be a thankless job.
yes, definitely.
Someday they'll appreciate it.
And he has moments, but I think as an athlete and even as the district attorney, you have to get in the zone. Like you got to get in that headspace where you got to kind of keep that focus where it's that drive and that the teamwork of like this is my secondary family. And when you're in that headspace, getting ready for a game or a meet, the parents are kind of like far back and you got to kind of focus on your thing. So
Sure.
He does try to give the thank yous where he can. And I no longer take offense to him being like, my other family is better. And I'm like, oh, you don't know them. The district attorney. So you got out of law school and went straight to LA?
No, it was kind of a circuitous route.
Okay.
It's not a very interesting story. I worked in a management consulting firm for a while, and then worked with a buddy on developing a big new health club in Little Rock, Arkansas, where I'm from, and then moved out to LA, got into the district attorney's office. So it took me a while to get there, but I think when I look back, I think I was always kind of heading there.
Earlier, you mentioned you liked the DA's office because you liked that sense of right and wrong, that the justice aspect of it. Did you ever, during your 30-year career, think about changing your role and getting away from the district attorney's office?
No, I didn't, because really there's only not only two, but if you're going to stay in criminal law, there are 2 primary paths you can take if you leave the DA's office. One is to become a private defense lawyer.
Yeah.
Probably make a lot more money that way. And the other is to be a judge. And I just never had the drive to be a judge. And partly, I think, because I enjoyed I enjoyed being a prosecutor, but I also enjoyed the flexibility that I had to still go do plays and take off when I needed to, vacation time to do some film and TV. But the other part of that was being a private defense attorney. And I have great respect for a lot of the defense attorneys that I worked with, really, really fine people. And I believe that they are doing the job that makes our system work. But I personally just couldn't do it. There are so many things that go along with being a defense attorney that I just couldn't do. So,
the clientele sometimes maybe not what you would like.
Well, it's not as much that. It's just that, actually, that's a part that was kind of frustrating to me because I'm very much a people person. And as a prosecutor, you can't engage with the defendants at all. And you can't get to know them. You can't, everything comes through the defense attorney. That's the way it has to be. Mm-hmm. And there are often times where I find myself going, I wonder what the story is behind that. I'd like to know. You want to have some empathy to go along with the prosecution, but you just can't do that. But it was more the aspect that there are things that you are sometimes called to do as a defense attorney. One of the things that I love, probably the thing I love the most about being a prosecutor, I remember the first day when I had gotten into the DA's office, and we had a class of about 15 new DAs, and we were meeting the very first day with the DA at that time, the DA, which was of LA County, who was Gil Garcetti. And he said to us something that I never forgot. He said, from this moment on, you have both the privilege and the responsibility of doing what is right. And I carried that with me. And now that's not to say that there aren't bad DAs, bad cops, bad defense attorneys, and they're bad apples everywhere.
Right.
To me, I never forgot that responsibility and that privilege of doing what I thought was right. If I didn't think there was enough evidence to prosecute a case, I wouldn't do so. I would never take a case to trial that I didn't think could be proven beyond a reasonable doubt and that I was convinced of the guilt. But as a defense attorney, you don't do that. You take the cases that you're assigned. Quite often, if not most of the time, you know the person's guilty, you know they've done it, and you have to argue something different, which means you have to argue against the truth sometimes. And I'll give you an example. I can remember doing a rape trial without going into great details where my victim, the one who I was prosecuting on behalf of, was this very sweet, innocent woman who got in this situation. The details are not important. But the defense attorney had no choice but to portray her as somebody who was kind of slutty and wanted this. It's just the kind of thing that I couldn't do. So.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And it's like we see it on TV all the time on like the different types of television where we know that they're innocent, but they have to just make your client look horrible, and it's sad. Where do you get that feel of justice? Growing up, did you always have that, like, have to do the right thing? Did you ever get in trouble as a kid?
Actually, it sounds terrible, but very little. I mean, you ask where I got this from. I don't know where this came from, but I just had this fantasy of being the all-American kid. I mean, I loved Superman. I mean, the original Superman comics and TV show and that sort of thing, truth, justice in the American way. And admittedly, it was a very, very naive, superficial idea of what that meant. But because of that, I just wanted to be good. And it wasn't until I finally got some maturity in my life, and faith has always been important to me. We went to church every Sunday, and I'm a Christian. So this idea of being good went along with that. But it was such a twisted way of viewing faith that I had to be good to earn God's favor, or if I was good, then good things would happen to me. And it's just such a wrong way of looking at the whole idea of faith. But because of that, I didn't get into much trouble. And it wasn't until later in my life when I started making some bad decisions, and I never got into a lot of stuff, but, failed relationships and jobs that didn't work out and things that I go, okay, you know what? That was all just based in pride and arrogance and a mistaken belief that you're this really good person.
What is it like juggling the DA's office and theater?
Well, it was hard at times, and yet it was a lot of fun. I love that challenge. Because one of the frustrating things, and I didn't know this, there's a lot of things you don't know until you start a job. I thought being a trial attorney, I would get to really utilize a lot of my acting talent and techniques and this sort of thing. And the truth is, you can't do that much in a courtroom. There's so many rules of evidence that limit what you say and the ability to be theatrical. A lot of what you see on TV is just not real, of course. And the other thing I found out was that I found this out very quickly in my first trial or few trials, is that juries don't laugh. It's like they feel like it's such a serious thing that when you tell a little joke or a little anecdote that goes along with the story you're trying to tell, they're so serious. So I couldn't do that. But I have always loved theater and loved being able to inhabit another character. I love good writing, and that's why being in the theater was so rewarding to me, to be able to take scripts that had such beautiful, deep, and profound writing and give life to those characters. I mean, this is going to be obvious when I say it, but the most rewarding time I ever had on stage was when my theater company, we did To Kill a Mockingbird.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from the South, I'm an attorney, and I got to play Atticus Finch. So that's just kind of like, that's heaven sent.
Right. It's like when if you're a lawyer in that part of the country, like that's your dream. Like that's
right.
Like you look up to that moment.
Right.
What are some of the other great roles that you've played on stage?
I think my other, the other two that I can think of that were really my favorite roles was playing Don Quixote in Man of La Mancha. That was, I had written my high school thesis on Don Quixote, and I just loved that book. It's talking about great writing, the Cervantes book, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful piece of theater, and very, very moving. So I loved playing that. And John Proctor in The Crucible, once again, a great, great character and a great play. So I've gotten a chance to do a few things that I miss. I miss the theater. I don't have as much time to do it anymore.
Do you like to go to the theater? Do you like to immerse yourself in going to the theater and seeing different plays?
Oh, I do. And one of the great things about what I was able to do, the theater company that I was in, a professional theater company, and we would do 4 or 5 plays a year. And like I said, over the years, I did over 25 plays with them. It was a small theater. We had 2 theaters, two stages, both of which were 99-seat houses. And I love the intimacy of small theater. I love performing in them, and I love going to them because you're up close and personal with the actors, or if you're an actor, you're up close and personal with the audience. I mean, there's something to be said, obviously, for the big Broadway type plays that come to the big Broadway houses, and those are wonderful to see, and especially done well. But I love the intimacy of small theater, and it's a risk sometimes, because sometimes you see great plays and sometimes you see plays that after the first intermission you're going, can I sneak out of here now?
You've transitioned now. You've retired from the DA's office. You've transitioned away from the stage. You're pursuing more full-time, regular, like TV movie type acting.
Right.
Your IMBD, you have a few. You're a lot of one episode. In the 2000s and the early aughts. What did you like about some of those smaller roles that you would just be on for an episode?
Yeah, I mean that's both good and bad, especially given that I had a full-time job, because when I was working full-time in the DA's office, if I would get a job that would take me away for a day or 2 or 3 days or a week, I could just take vacation time and do that. Right. And it's so much fun to do that, to go in as a somebody who's got a full-time job, rather than, not to denigrate anybody else, but a lot of actors, struggling actors, are waiters and waitresses and bartenders, and got these kind of just jobs to stay alive. Well, I mean, I had a full-time career. So it was like a vacation for me to leave that and go and do and just have fun. And I would never, make a big deal, or I would never even tell people that, hey, I'm an attorney. I'm actually a DA. If it came up, I wouldn't hide it. And I can remember one show in particular. I went to work on the reboot of Dynasty a few years ago, and I played a judge. And at that time, I was working in the unit that I was working in the DA's office. I was the DA in one particular courtroom, so I was there every day for probably 4 years, and I got to know this judge very well. She was just a wonderful, wonderful judge. We got to be very close. And so when I was on the set, I had someone sitting up there at the judge's bench with my black robe and the gavel. I said, take a picture of me. So I took a picture the day I was there on set. She's in the courtroom back in Los Angeles. I texted her a picture. I said, Judge Hill, I've never felt so smart. So she got a big kick out of that. But the other part to answer that question is it was frustrating that was all I had time to do was those short little things. And it was a wonderful thing that shortly after I retired, I got this audition for Shadrach, the series that's out right now. And it required me to be in Covington, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, for 6 straight weeks. Now, if I had gotten that when I was in the DA's office, I would have had to either quit or taken a leave of absence or just had to turn it down. Because you can't just, in the middle of thing, when you got trials coming up, just go, hey, I'm going for 6 weeks. See you guys later. So the timing of it was great. So now that I have the time, I can do those things that might take me away for a longer period of time. And I hope I get the chance to do a lot more of them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Looking over your filmography, you did a couple of episodes on Mad Men, a very small role in Scrubs. I absolutely loved some of you pick roles that like you did the judge with Dynasty. You played the cranky old man on was that Rebel?
Yep.
And I just love the range that you have. I watched all 10 episodes of Crooked Tower, which
you're the one.
I'm the one. It is. I have a thing for like indie film and short films, and I don't know what it was about it. You were in it. I think total runtime is maybe half hour, maybe 45 minutes. You're in it here and there. I love seeing actors do things that I feel they wouldn't have normally have gone for or outside of their comfort zone. Yep. Same thing with maybe Eagleheart. I think you played a small role in Eagleheart as the Air Force commander.
Right.
When someone comes to you with these different like weirder roles, what do you think about? What's your process?
Well, as an actor, you want to do as many different kind of roles as you can, obviously. And I am not in the position where I get to pick what roles I want to do. I audition as they come to me, and if they are generous enough to offer me a part, then I will take it, unless there's something incredibly objectionable about the part, which has never happened in my case. So it's been fun to play those kind of things. I mean, given that I was an attorney, I just sort of assumed that that's the kind of thing that would come along, was the attorney, the CEO, the politician, the military guy. Yeah. But it's been great to do other things. Like you mentioned Rebel, when they asked me to play a guy who was lying in bed and dying of cancer. I mean, that was so much fun to do. I'd never done something. And Ozark.
Yes.
And the thing that was amazing about Ozark was that I was in the second episode of the first season. And so when I auditioned for that and when I went to do it, Jason Bateman, of course, huge star. So, this has got to be a big deal. But at that time, I had no idea that was going to be the phenomenon with the quality that it was. So I've been so grateful ever since that I got to be a part of that. And very early on. And that's an example where, and this happens sometimes, you just can't ever, as an actor, second guess. Sometimes I'll get something and go, why did they even send this audition to me? I'm not right for this. And that one was this character named Jed, who was this redneck boat owner. And, I'm from Arkansas, but I've never really fallen into that, good old boy redneck thing. I mean, I can do it. And clearly they like the audition. But then when I get there, if you saw that part, I don't know if you did, but I get there and they put this big floppy old hat on me. You can see half my face and this, baggy looking shirt and everything. And I go, well, you guys know what you're doing because it worked. And it's the first thing I put on my demo reel because I just think it's so different.
It's fun. I love it.
Yeah.
Currently, you mentioned it. I mentioned it earlier. Shadrach. This is on, let's see, Great America Pure Flicks.
Right.
This is a faith-based channel.
It is faith-based or family channel. You could call it both. I think they have a number of shows on there that are not strictly faith-based in the way one might usually associate with that title. And even this show. I mean, if you want me to talk about what the show is.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. I mean, this is, it was a Sony Affirm Originals film, or a series, I should say. Affirm Originals or Affirm Films is the faith-based division of Sony. So they are doing some of these projects. And this is one of, I think, 4 original series that PureFlix has put out. And Great American Family was its own entity, as was PureFlix, and they've since merged to now be Great American PureFlix. But it's this lovely, charming family series. Parents and their 2 kids, 12 and 10-year-old kids, are living in the big city. Series of circumstances. I mean, this happens within the first minute of the episode, so I'm not giving anything away. Dad's business, he loses his company. And they are forced to move to the country to live with the grandparents, with Paw and Graham. Okay. And so it's a story about how do these 3 generations now living in close quarters, how do they adjust to all the change that's happening in their life? All of a sudden, they've just been thrown this curveball, which is true for everybody in life. Mm-hmm. And most especially for the 2 kids, and even more especially for Anna, the 12-year-old girl, who is really the star of the show. Well, she and the horse are the stars of the show. The horse is Shadrach. That's the name of the horse. But you can imagine a 12-year-old girl living in a big city, going to a big school, got all her friends, all her social media contacts, all her activities, and all of a sudden, we're going to live with grandma and grandpa, And even in the first episode, she gets there and takes out her cell phone. She's out in the country. She goes, there's no cell service. So it's a huge change that she has to go through. And she's not happy about it, not at all. And, for the parents, the dad's lost his job. The mom, who used to live in this small town, was living in a big city, successful, big house, all this kind of stuff. Now they're in this living with the grandparents, and the grandparents who have this comfortable, easy life on the farm. Now all of a sudden they've got 4 members of their family living in their own house. So it's all about change and what you go through and how you adjust and how you accept everybody. And it's encouraging, uplifting, and it's got some humor in it. It's got some drama. It's not like this is going back to that term, faith-based. There used to be a time, maybe not as much anymore, when you hear faith-based and you just go, oh, no, thanks. I don't want to be beaten over the head with any spiritual message. This is not like that. I mean, they go to church, they pray before meals, and every once in a while they'll go, hey, let's pray about that. But that's it. They don't make a big deal about it. It's kind of who they are, but it's not preachy. It's not saccharine. It's real life.
Right. And I was guilty of it for a moment, for a second, when I saw faith-based, and I was like, what does that even mean? And then after, researching the show, you and the channel, it's like you said, it's a family channel,
Right.
and your show, it's not beating you over the head with it. I think it's nice that the faith base is kind of just, showing the traits of just good family like values,
Exactly.
which the church would instill some of those values, but they're more of the values more versus the religion aspect of it. So so anybody listening, please take a look at the show. It definitely has like an old family channel like Hallmark vibe to it. But those shows do like incredibly well. My mom and my grandmother lose all of December to Hallmark.
Right. I think Hallmark starts all its Christmas movies in June and just runs them for the next 7 months.
But I think the show looks fantastic. It is definitely something that I would fall down a rabbit hole and watch. I will finish the rest of it. How many episodes is it going to be?
6 episodes.
Okay. I think I saw 1 episode. I plan on finishing the rest of it because it's I watch a little bit of everything, but every once in a while I'm like, I need some good family values. And then it's not beating me over the head with the scare of the faith-based. It's just good family content, and I can get behind that. So,
and it sounds cliche to say it's good for the whole family, but this one really is, because you've got 3 generations, and all 3 of these generations are given equal time in this show, and how they influence each other. And in fact, I got an email the other day from an old high school friend of mine. This is going back 50 years, and she was watching it, and she said, our grandkids came over and we all watched the show together and we all loved it. I go, that's the best kind of review you can get for a show like this when you're trying to reach everybody in the family.
Does it have potential? Because I haven't finished it. Does it have potential for a second season?
We sure hope so.
All right.
Yeah. The more people that watch, I'm sure the more likely that will be.
So now that you're a series regular, it's you haven't seen a lot of roles yet where you're a series regular. Now that you're doing this, do you have to live in Atlanta now for a couple of weeks, months while you're shooting? Like, what does your life look like different than being a DA now that we're a full-time actor?
Actually, we are really blessed. We have a place in Newport Beach, California, and then another place in Nashville, because we're both Southerners. We both went to Vanderbilt, so that's closer to family and friends. But Nashville's a very easy drive from Atlanta, and we are very mobile these days, given the fact that, as I said, I'm retired now. So it's very easy if I get a part in Atlanta to, whether I'm here in California or in Nashville, to just jump in the car or plane, go out and do it for a while and stay there and come back. So yeah, have SAG card, will travel, as they say.
Okay. Are there any upcoming roles that might have some promise that either you have scripts for that you would like to get, or something in the pipeline that we're maybe not allowed to talk about yet?
Nothing definite at this point. It's been interesting what's been happening over the last few months in the industry, and you may know this. Obviously there was COVID, which shut everything down for a while. Then there were the strikes, the writer's strike and the actor's strike, which shut things down, period, for months and months. And the hope was that everything was going to just explode when those strikes got settled, and there'd be just so much backed up in the pipeline. Well, it didn't happen. And the reason it didn't happen was because that streaming model never worked. And again, this is a whole nother topic to talk about. But the studios and the streaming services and that, they just can't produce at the level they did before. So there's actually been a lot of contraction in the industry, and a lot of people are really hurting. A lot of actors and writers and directors and crew people that are either having to figure out something else to do or move. I'm glad I do this as much of a hobby as a retired person, so I don't depend upon it. A lot of people really do. So there's just not as much work available out there right now. And yet I'm still getting auditions. I did an audition yesterday for Grey's Anatomy. And the good thing, one of the things that came out of COVID was they started doing auditions on video. So
Okay.
I'm sitting in my studio right now, and I can, wherever a show is going to be shooting, eventually they send you an audition, you do it here, you send it off to them. So you no longer have to be where something is being shot or produced to go in and do the audition. So that's a double-edged sword. It's a benefit. You don't have to be there. The other side of that is now they can get those self-tape auditions, they call them, from literally all over the world.
Right.
The audition I did yesterday for Grey's Anatomy, I could be competing with a guy in Australia or a guy in London, So it's tough to get work.
Yeah. Atlanta is kind of a big place for TV and movie right now. Yes, they have a big bunch of production down there.
Huge, yes. It's certainly the largest production capabilities outside of Los Angeles or maybe New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've poured a ton of money and tax incentives and everything into their industry there. So it's huge, and a lot of people have moved there. A lot of actors that I know moved from California to Atlanta.
Your new show picks up. We're looking season 3, season 4. Is it something that you move there full time, or
no?
Like a summer home?
A show like this is never going to require you to be someplace full time. And again, Nashville is so close, and we
Right.
we love Nashville. So
Okay. Before I let you go, I'm 41. I work 2 jobs, one for 20, one for 15 years. I'm slowly getting my life together, but I found podcasting with my son. My daughter's 4. I hope to bring her into it and get more family and stuff involved. What are some advice that you would have for myself or anybody looking to reinvent themselves when they feel like I can't do more, or I'm stuck doing the same boring thing for 20 years?
Yeah. I think what you're doing is a great testament to, as you just said, reinvention. And, there are a number of aspects that go into the ability to do that and the timing of doing that. I mean, the truth is, there were a lot of times when early in my legal career, when it wasn't a lot of fun and I was working long hours, when I thought, I'd just rather be an actor. But I'm very glad that I didn't make that decision to just try to be an actor, because it would have been a huge, huge struggle. And I would have missed out on so much what that career as a DA had for me, and the ability to then transition more into my passion. So there is something to be said of, and I would tell any young actor or anyone who has any kind of passion that, yeah, if you have a passion for something, if it's something that really speaks to your heart, yeah, go for it. But you never know when the right timing for that to work out is going to be. But if you got a dream, you don't want to give up on it. I mean, you mentioned, and I don't have any pride in what I have done as an actor, but you mentioned that most of what I've done have been small parts on things. And at my age, most guys my age who've had successful acting careers, they've got resumes miles long, and people know who they are and that sort of thing. But I don't care. That doesn't bother me, because I made a deliberate choice to do what I needed to do, and now to do what I want to do. So there's a lot of facets to that question.
Yeah. Tell us again, what show are you on? Where can we see it?
The show is called Shadrach, which is taken from the biblical story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Shadrach is the name of the horse, but it is currently streaming on PureFlix. It's called Great American PureFlix, but you can find it by going to pureflix.com. That's PUREFLIX, pureflix.com. And you can sign up for a subscription, and you can get a free trial subscription. And just check us out. And we're convinced once you check us out, you're going to want to subscribe.
All right. And do you have, do you follow any of the socials? Do you have a social media?
I do. I did it for this this show. It was the first time. I'm kind of an old fart in some ways that never really gotten involved in social media, but I thought because of this, I at least ought to get an Instagram and get on Facebook. And so it's just Greg Allan Martin. I'm lucky nobody else already had that. So at Greg Allan Martin, you can find me.
Greg, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. A fascinating journey. A lot of positivity that I love and that I hope others hear and find a little bit of inspiration to just do what you love. And it's never too late to reinvent yourself. And that's kind of my journey right now is I just look forward to talking to somebody in a couple of years where they're like, why did you start podcasting? And then just be like, because I wanted to reinvent a little bit.
Yeah. But I think it's fabulous what you're doing, and I applaud you for it. And especially getting to do it with your son. How much fun!
I think that's the hidden secret that behind the whole thing is. And then my daughter, she was. We did an episode last night where she jumped on my lap and hung out and counted to 10 and hung out for a little bit for a couple of minutes with us. That
is really great. That's great.
It's priceless, and I get to keep them on. I love sharing my experiences and your experience with everybody. I hope you get season 2. So when I see that you hit season 2, we'll have you back on and see what it's like going back for a second season as a series regular and any new experiences that you might have with that.
Great. Thank you.
Greg, thank you very much. You have a great day.
All right. You too.
Good night.
Best of luck with the podcast.
Thank you. Whimsy.